Greetings, good listeners. I just did this thing where I opened my streaming software and I was like, okay, I'm live. And I started talking and I was talking for like 10 minutes when I realized that I didn't actually press go live. Oh, it's just one of those mornings. Welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons. And that's morning with Mourning. I'm Shaunga, multiverse historian, showrunner of the Ancestors Writers Room, and artistic director of Otherworldly Giants. Wow, did you see how smooth that was? That I just like, okay, before I pressed live, I was like trying to, because okay, like you're backwards, okay? Like when I'm trying to point this way, I'm actually pointing the other way. I'm like, how do I point to the sign properly? It's hard to figure out that. But did you see what I did? I just did it so well. Okay. Um, anyway, it's just one of those mornings. Okay. I made a commitment that I was gonna show up on live every Saturday in September at 11:11 and try out this live talk show. So this is my version of an Ancestors live talk show, where I start with a monologue, like a regular talk show, and then interview an ancestor. So basically, I'm channeling, and then closing. So I was practicing trying this out in September, um, and seeing how it goes. And it's our last day of September. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue in October. We'll see how today goes. So, what I want to talk about in this opening monologue is kind of why I feel like death this morning. I was like, I feel like death right now. You should know that. um, which tracks because I'm the planet of death. I'm Pluto. Um, but essentially, I was like up all night, right? And I was basically I woke up around 2 a.m. and I did go to bed a little bit early, so I was asleep for a while. Then I woke up and I felt this energy coursing through me, and I was like, um, "Is it morning yet?" Like, can I wake up and start my day? Because I feel like I don't want to be asleep right now. And I woke up and I saw it was 2 a.m. and I'm like, girl, I don't want to start my day at 2 a.m. But I did, like I woke up for a little while and I basically was up from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning just writing because there's a lot coming through and I just like I knew in my spirit I need to just sit down and write like everything that's coming through. So that's why I feel like death. So I kind of like tried to go back to sleep around like after 6 a.m. And now I'm just like kind of rolled out of bed, just like somehow got my tea in here. And, I made a commitment to show up at 11:11, you know, um, every Saturday. Right. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And motherfucker, I did it. I did it. I just forgot to press live. And I was here at 11:11. Nobody else cares, but I care. But I want to talk about the ancestor hour a little bit. Like, what does that mean when your ancestors, when spirit, when something like wakes you up in the middle of the night? Because I've gone through many different journeys with that. And it actually started um, like 10 years ago when when I really started my spiritual journey, or rather, more accurately, my spiritual journey started me. Who can relate to that? Who can relate to that? Did you start your spiritual journey or did your spiritual journey start you? Because that's really how it was for me. And it kind of started like that, where, I um, would, I was like my ancestors started waking me up in the middle of the night. And I started having these like more corporeal experiences with spirit that really made it clear to me, like, I can't ignore that I have a relationship to the spirit world that's very present and very, very vibrant, we might say. So so yeah, and one of the very first things I learned from one of my first teachers, who is still a beloved teacher, Dr. G. Love, she was like, "Shaunga, you are the CEO of your body. You are the boss of your life," right? And that kind of speaks to the fact that as an open channel, as an open vessel to the universe, as someone who has a great ability, facility, power to receive these like spiritual movements, it's important to remember, like, I'm not just at the mercy of spirit, right? I'm not just here like to, spirit gets to do whatever it wants to do whenever it does it, and I'm just here and I have no say, right? Because that sounds like a bad relationship. That sounds like a relationship pattern I'm really trying to end. Right, where like I never have a say. So that's the first thing that my teacher told me, was like, you have every right to tell your ancestors, like, don't wake me up in the middle of the night with some freaky shit. Like, that's too creepy. Like, I need to sleep. When I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping, right? And that was a very, very important lesson to learn at the beginning. Um, we're not here to just be overpowered by spirit, right? And I think I was saying this in a previous one of my previous lives, that for me, and I think for a lot of people, we came here to learn how to fall back in love with being human. And I just like, that's the title of a book by Kai Cheng Tom, and I've referenced it a few times in different places. But like it, because it's such an important, it's it's like that's it for so many of us, right? We're here to fall back in love with being human, with being a human experience, especially those of us who are so connected to spirit. And it's like, can we balance, if you want to talk about directions, balance the north and the south, right? Balance spirit with the physical body, and one isn't here to overpower the other. um and I know for me, I'm really learning how to fall back in love with like being in the driver's seat of my life, and having a physical vessel, um and caring for that physical vessel and prioritizing that physical vessel. And sometimes that means like we are sleeping through the night. So if that, I did that 10 years ago, like I really grounded myself into that intention, and it worked. So why is spirit waking me up in the middle of the night, right? And, it's not like it never did it again. Like, I went through different phases where it would do it a little bit. And usually when that happens, you can look at a previous video that I made on the Ancestor Hour. I think it's called just the Ancestor Hour. And we talk about, in that video, I talk about the Ancestor Hour, which in many traditions is considered 4 to 6 a.m., right? And so often your ancestors will communicate with you during that time period, because that's when they're most active. That's when they have the most, the greatest ability to send us messages or communicate with us. It's when we are most open to receive their messages. Mm. Right? Because once we start waking up, once the world starts waking up in the morning, it gets too busy, it gets too noisy, we get in our heads. Um, but things are so much more quiet, right? And so if they have a really important message to send us, they will wake us up in the middle of the night, right? And so there's a lot of reasons why that could be happening for you. Like sometimes if it's like you're not getting the message when you're awake, and they're like really trying to get something through to you, and like maybe you even put out a prayer, you put out something that you called into your life, And it's like, that boat that's coming by. You know that story, where it's like, I prayed for something. I prayed the universe is going to give it to me, and the universe sends you a boat. Um and you're like, and the boat person is like, get on the boat, get on the boat. You're like, I'm waiting for a message from spirit, and it's like, okay. So if you're kind of stuck in that, and like they keep sending you messages to get out of the situation you're in, or to whatever you're praying for, and it keeps coming by and you keep ignoring it, they'll amp up the message, right? And so sometimes that might be why they wake you up in a moment where like you can receive it a little bit more clearly. Sometimes, for example, if you're either ignoring or you're kind of confused about how to move forward on a task, a life task, a life calling, a soul's task, um, they'll wake you up until you get it. And a perfect example is if I, for example, like if I were ignoring my calling as a writer, right? If I were like, I'm not good enough, nobody wants to hear anything that I have to say, or like I'm, running around doing everything else that I can think of instead of just like sitting down and writing a book or writing a story or just writing, then that would be something that they would do, right? They would awaken me in the middle of the night with a story that like I have to get up and write it down. I just have to. It's so good, right? It's just so there. It's so clear. It's so present. So that would be an example, right? Like if you have something that your soul really wants to do, but for some reason it's like you're also having a very hard time committing to it because it is inevitably bringing up all this stuff that you feel like you're not good enough, etc. Like it's inevitable that that stuff would come up because it is so important to you. Ancestors might wake you up in the middle of the night and like make sure that you make it impossible for you to not do it. So there's the thing, but like that's not me right now. Like I'm not ignoring my calling as a writer. I'm I'm in it, right? And so why would they do that? Right? Because my ancestors know how important it is for me to take care of my body, for me to sleep well. Um why why would they send me a story to write from 2 to 6 a.m. when I am already available to write at different times of the day? So why would they do that to you if you are already available for it at a time that you said that you are much better suited to do that task? Oh, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. I'm sorry. um I guess they really wanted to punctuate that message because otherwise I wouldn't have sneezed like that. Why? This is okay. At Otherworldly Giants, we practice self-study, global study, multiverse study. So here's a study question for you. They're like, Shaunga, tell them the study question. That's why I sneezed. Okay. Why would your ancestors or spirit or life or whatever start kicking your ass in an area of life in a way that's not ideal when you're already available for that thing and you're already in it and you're already committed to it? Why would it be poking you like that? Reflection question. I don't know. That's literally what I'm here trying to figure out. Well, so I tuned into why that happened. And the message that I kind of hear my ancestors saying is just like, um when the medicine's flowing, kid, it's just flowing. You know, and I kind of see this larger picture. If you listen to a previous live, we talked about how we're in this middle of the wheel of fortune is shifting, right? And we're in this major revolutionary global shift. And where our personal healing journeys are really moving with the larger healing and freedom movements. And we're talking about real freedom of the soul, and that wheel is just turning. And so it's sort of like the medicine is just going to whoosh, it's going to come out when it's going to come out, and we're not actually we're not trying to shove ourselves so rigidly into a schedule, day and night, kind of schedule that will help you feel like you have will give you the illusion of like being in control over your life. I know that's a little bit like of a blunt way of saying it, but sometimes, in this journey of like I'm in the driver's seat, um whoa. I'm in the driver's seat of my life, and that means I'm not here for a life where spirit is just overpowering me and I have no say, and balancing that with, okay, um, where are we on Earth's clock? And what is nature doing right now? What is cosmic nature doing right now? And can I be in the driver's seat while also opening myself to a more expansive view and a more deeply rooted view of what it means to be in control of my life and be in the driver's seat? Because sometimes when we say like I'm going to be in control of my life, we over control things. We try and over control spirit, we over control our schedules, we over control, we get kind of stuck in a version of the mind that's like it's going to be rigid like this, and that's how I'm going to be in control of my life here, spirit, so you got to bend to that. And spirit's like that's not actually who you are. That's not actually where we are in time. We have to find a deeper way of feeling in the driver's seat of our lives and in control, like in self authority, in self leadership, um, while opening ourselves up to more adventurous changes and moving in a more deeper grounded way that can move with these larger freedom movements and this wheel that's turning, because it doesn't want to just like spin us around as if we're pawns or um just puppets, or we're completely out of control. It wants us to find some kind of some authority, not the kind of authoritarian whatever, but like self authority over your life. Sorry, I just like, that I had that moment where I was like, whoa, because I literally like after I spent 2 to 6 a.m. Writing, and then I fell asleep for a little while. I had this like I had this weird dream. I'm not gonna get into the weirdness of the dream because it was like, what the fuck was that? But basically, I was in a car and it was driving, and there wasn't anybody in the driver's seat, and I was in the back seat, and I was like, I looked at there was someone else in the back. I was like, "Are you driving? Like, are you doing some automatic thing? Like, how is this car going?" And I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta get in the front seat somehow." And so, that just hit me, right? Where I'm like, "Whoa, there's something here," um, about the fact that after that happened to me, um, that I woke up between 2 to 6 AM and wrote, and I really felt in the moment that it wasn't the right move to say, "Spirit, don't bug me. Spirit, I'm available in the morning." It was like, "This needs to come out now, it's just when it's coming out. It's when the medicine is coming out." And that's why, at the beginning of the year, I've gotten so many messages about, the most important thing that I'm supposed to do right now is take care of my physical body and my physical health, because they're like, the level of changes that are gonna come through your life, like, you need to be really prioritizing that, so that when things come through in unexpected ways, it's not it's okay, right? Like, you can get up in the middle of the night and have a writing session because that's when it's coming through, and your life supports that, right? Um, and yet, right afterward, I had that dream that I was in a car and we were driving. The car was driving and I was in the back seat and nobody was driving it, and I had, like, because I had a moment where the car didn't stop at a stop sign and it just went through the intersection, and I was just like, "What the hell?" Like, we're not looking both ways before we cross the street anymore. Like, so we are back to this question of, when you are on top of it, when you are, like, I'm on top of my, I'm not perfect, but I'm showing up for my guidance. I'm doing my protection rituals. I'm listening. I'm tuned in. Um, and I am understanding the changes that are coming through my life, that it is important to just prioritize the physical body so that spirit can move through my life in a way that is authentic to spirit and authentic to me, honestly. Um, this is kind of ushering me into another phase of my life that is more adventurous, more spontaneous, and more really just tuned into, like, how my creativity wants to move through me on any given day, my creativity and the spirit of my creativity. And so, in doing so many things right, I'm still getting a dream that's showing me I'm not in the driver's seat. So again, I think we're just here, like, what does it mean to find a deeper level of self-authority, a deeper level of groundedness and presence? I think everybody is being asked to find that right now, which is, it's showing you, like, you might be in the driver's seat on one level, but what about this deeper level that is you're now being opened up to? There's a deeper level of love, a deeper level of freedom, a deeper level of grief, a deeper level of presence and awareness, just in all the different seen and unseen relationships around you. So if you're now coming into that deeper level and you see what's down there, right? You see what's down there, that someone isn't in the driver's seat there. So what is that journey, right? Okay. So let's just move into the interview portion, because I want to interview a fictional character. So that's what I love about Saturday morning cartoons, right? Is I want to talk to fictional characters and I want to interview them. And you know, I interview all sorts of ancestors, but the fictional character is just one of my favorite ancestors to interview. So I have no idea who's going to come through. I did not tune into this beforehand. Um, and I'm just going to see, I'm going to tune in and ask A surprise guest is going to come through, but I'm going to ask specifically for a fictional character, and let's see who comes through. All right. So let's get ready for our interview. All right. I'm going to just breathe. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So the first thing that I saw is a little leaf um falling from the sky. And then I saw the character Wash from Firefly. Serenity. The movie Serenity. Um it came out in like 2005. And this character, he says, "I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar." Okay, first of all, if you've been following along, I've been running some like contests and prizes for my for just some of my podcast episodes. So maybe like I don't know, like a few weeks ago or a month ago, I released an episode that's called "The Overwhelming Failure of Your Success," and then the tagline is "I want justice for um, the leaf on the wind." And the contest was somewhere in this episode, um, I say a quote that's a very famous movie quote, if you know the movie. Um, I just drop the quote into this episode without really saying anything. Um, write in and tell me what the quote is, and you get a prize. And so that contest has been running for, yeah, I actually kept it open for Virgo season, but I guess right now we're going to close that contest because I'm actually giving you the answer based on who the character is that came through. The character that came through is because the contest was like, tell me the character who says this quote and the movie that it comes from. So that's the answer. There's a movie called Serenity, and there's a character named Wash who's like the pilot of the spaceship. Um, and there's a very pivotal moment in that movie where he's like there's this kind of like this epic battle. There's this very it's one of the action climax. It's part of like the climax of the movie, but like the action climax, it's like in that kind of very bad guys are fighting each other and the good guys are not sure if you're going to win or whatever. Um, and he's flying this spaceship and he has to fly it through some really dense and difficult um just he has to fly it through um an area where it's not certain that they're going to survive. And he's just this expert pilot, and he's like and everybody else is kind of freaking out behind him, like the rest of the crew and the friends. And they're like, oh my God. And he's like completely calm. He's like driving through all this stuff in his spaceship and he's completely calm. And he's like, I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar. Isn't this amazing the way that the ancestors come through? Because we're talking about what it means to be in the driver's seat of your life. And I just had a dream that I wasn't driving my car. And now the ancestor that comes through to be interviewed is literally a pilot on a spaceship. It's in the future. Like this is just how like don't you fucking love how this comes together? And he's like, "I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar." So the contest's over because I spoiled the you can no longer write in with your ancestors, your answers. Um, all right. So let's just message wants to come through? What does this fictional character want to offer us today as an interview? I'm going to ask, why are you showing yourself today? Why'd you come? Why'd you show up? He's like, I want you to see how I do it. I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar. Mm. And if you really go back to the episode that I'm talking about, why we brought in this conversation about the leaf on the wind, it is about who we are as grievers. And this is what we've been talking about in the last few videos. It's the part of you that has such a heartfelt voice that sings through your grief, and that in connecting to that deep grief, you are sharing such an incredibly potent message of love and truth. And when you just let that voice out, watch how you soar. Because now I'm seeing that image of me in the car, in the back seat, and I'm not panicking anymore. Oh, it's so cool. I'm like in the back seat and I go like this, and I'm like sending energy, and then the car just like stops. So it's no longer just like going by itself. It stops. I take a breath. I walk out the back seat and I walk around and I sit down in the front seat, and I sit there and I turn on the ignition and I go. So there's a level of presence, and I'm hearing the words grounded faith and truth and purpose that we just click, 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 click into when we prioritize the voice within that really has something to say. And you find that voice by going a little bit deeper away from the noise and just tell the truth. And this character, Wash, is coming up. He's like, I want you to see how I do things, because we are moving through kind of what it's what happens in that film, in that moment when he says that quote, is emulating sort of where we are right now as a collective. It's like, recognize the density that we're moving through, recognize the danger in a lot of ways, recognize that a lot of us are like, I don't know if I'm going to survive this, but that character knows. We're not going to repeat what happens to that character in that movie. No spoilers or anything, but like for a lot of you who know that movie, they're like, okay, spoilers, like he dies. He dies, but everybody else lives. And that's what we're changing. That's literally, like, I've been doing a lot of in my VIP room, like transmuting this motherhood wound. And I'm going to be sharing more on my podcast around that too. We're talking about the community mother and how there's this contract that we've been in that we save the day, we drive the car, we do the hard work, everybody lives, but we die? No, fuck that. That's not how it's gonna happen anymore. That's not what we're doing. And this character Wash is like, he's like, "Yep." He's like, "There's some nasty ass shit in Hollywood because this story was created through Hollywood by a creator that has been called out for a lot of abuse. And this character, Wash, is like, yep. So it's like obviously that kind of stuff gets put into the storytelling. There's a reason why the creator made that choice to have that character die. And I'm not saying that that character is whatever, he's like a white dude, different than like a woman of color, queer, BIPOC, storyteller, community mother. But on a deeper energetic level, there's a reason that he doesn't die, that the pilot doesn't die, that the pilot dies, right? And we're not doing that in the same way. So this is about knowing in certainty, like how certain that character was. I'm a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar. Like I am not afraid. Maybe I'm afraid, but I am present and I know what I'm doing and I know that we're going to make it. When he's flying through, he might not know. He might not know that he's going to make it, right? But when he's in that seat, when he's doing that job, he knows with certainty that he's going to make it. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. Like you have to know. You have to know. And again, we're coming back to this belief, disbelief thing that we've been talking about on the podcast for a minute. Like, if we are really going to get ourselves free as individuals and as collectives, we have to believe it, just like this character does. That's the moment we're in. Like, that's how important the belief is in the vision that we see for our future. A healed planet with communities that have figured out how to heal with one another and divest from these extractive genocidal systems and cultures on every level, including the personal, intimate, spiritual, energetic level. We have learned how to be good to one another. We have learned to create with one another. We have learned to heal here and then share that with intimate circles and watch that grow and spread and spread and spread until the antagonist energy has no choice but to yield. Not because we shook their shoulders and made them stop, because we changed ourselves and that energy changed everything. I'm going to shout out Michaela Harris, who said a while ago, we don't need everybody to be on board this type of revolution. We just need critical mass. That's what that means to me. When I hear that, that's my interpretation of it, right? It's like the more and more an energy expands of true healing and freedom and love and grief and just what it truly means to us to be human, the antagonist energy, the dominant energy dissipates because we just get too strong. And this is the task right now. Be in that energy. I am a leaf on the wind. Watch how I soar. Watch how I move through this incredibly dense energy that is really complicated, but I can do it because I'm in the driver's seat. Wash is saying, when you do it, Shaunga, you don't die. I might have died in this story because that's all I could be here. That's all I could be in a Hollywood story written by a very talented creator who is not about this kind of revolution. That's all I could be there, and you're not going to die. You and yours, you're not going to die. Not like that. The way that he dies in that movie is a tragedy. this whole podcast, this magical reality TV in development that I've been sharing, it is in process development of my larger TV series in development, and it's called This Is How We Live and Die. That's literally the title of my story. This is how we live and die. And tragedy is not how we're going to die. And I say that very well aware of all the ways that people are dying in such tragic ways. And that's true. But part of that sitting in the driver's seat is believing wholeheartedly that we are ending that now. We are ending all of that creates that tragedy. And in order to end it, we have to believe it now. This is no longer the way we're going to die. This is no longer the way that we're going to die. This is no longer the way that we are going to live and die. We are doing it differently, and we are not going to lose. That's the level of commitment we need right now. We can't bend to that reality and we can't give away even 1 ounce of our belief or power to this right now. Our task is to change it. And this is the energy we need. When we think about energetically, what does it mean? To energetically be who and how we need to be today in order to end all of this. Not just end it, but transform it into a completely different way of life, a completely different way of how we live and die on this planet. And this character is coming today to say, you, singular Shaunga, but also you, humans, are not going to die like this anymore. And going through this great transformation, this great transmutation, it feels like we are energetically moving through these like real, like dense places that it looks like we might not survive, and we are losing people. Still, what does it mean to be, I'm a leaf on the wind, watch how I soar? Get out of that back seat, sit in the front seat, and be the voice that is in you. Live that out. Anything else that you want to say this character wants to share with us? Yeah, that's it. He's like, I'm good. I'm rooting for you. Thanks. Thanks, Wash. All right. Let's take one big deep breath and release it. A lot of food for thought for today, right? Um, so I'll leave it at that. I'm gonna add in links later on so you can check out the podcast that I've been talking about, check out Magical Reality TV for the Revolution, meditate, journal, think about what kind of study questions are arising for you. As you listen to this, what questions do you have? Where do you feel resonance or dissonance? What is it opening up in you? What is it opening up in you? Or just receive it and, have a really awesome day in whatever you're doing, a blessed day. And I'm going to think about whether or not I'm going to continue doing this in October. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But either way, I will be around on my podcast. You can sign up for my mailing list. You can sign up for my Instagram. Um, there's a VIP room if you want to go deeper with me. There's a class coming up, which I'm going to share more info about soon. So the class is on the quantum birth chart. And yeah, I'll just leave it there for now, and we'll see you around. Peace.